Get comfortable. Tonight's story is about two strangers on a night train, a thermos of tea, and the things we say at 2 a.m. when we've finally stopped pretending. Leave a comment and tell me where you're listening from. I read every one. Let's go. Compartment 6, Chapter 1, Boarding. Daniel found his seat 4 minutes before departure, later than he'd meant to, the way things had been going lately. The last several months he'd been late to everything. Not badly late, a few minutes, always just a few, but consistently. Like something in him was resisting arriving on time, resisting being where he was supposed to be. He'd noticed it, but hadn't done anything about it. That felt about right, too. He made his way down the car with his backpack, bumping his shoulder against the luggage racks, found compartment 6, and slid the door open. Inside, there was only a night light, dim, orange, the kind that comes on late when people are sleeping or trying to sleep. A woman was sitting by the window, 40 maybe, hard to say exactly in that light. Her face was tired but not worn out, more the tired that comes from a long time of holding something in, not from missed sleep. Dressed simply, dark sweater, jeans. She'd taken off her shoes. They sat neatly beside the berth. Her hair was loosely pulled back. A few strands escaped, and she hadn't bothered to fix them. She was holding a book, but not reading. She was looking out at the platform, at people saying goodbye under the lamps, at luggage being dragged somewhere. The look of someone thinking about something else entirely. Daniel put his backpack on the upper shelf. "Good evening." She turned. "Evening." Nothing more. Back to the window. The train lurched once, then again, and slowly began to move. The platform started sliding away. People with raised hands, lights stretching into streaks and then ending. Outside the window, darkness began, and rain, fine, sideways, barely visible in the passing glow of other trains. Daniel sat down across from her, took out his phone, looked at the screen. 3 unread messages from his ex, 1 from his mother, 2 from work. He didn't want to read any of them. He was tired of words that didn't solve anything, words that filled space without leaving any air in it. He put the phone away. Then he noticed the book. It was lying in her lap, old, with a worn spine and folded down page corners. But that wasn't what caught his attention. Sticking out from between the pages was a bookmark, a small photograph. He couldn't see what was in it, only that it was a photograph and that it had been tucked there the way you tuck things you want to keep close but aren't ready to look at. The train picked up speed. Outside, the rain continued. In the compartment, it was quiet. Just the sound of the wheels, even and monotonous, and a brief echo from a tunnel that came and went. The car swayed gently. Somewhere down the corridor, a door swung shut. Someone coming or going. Then quiet again. Just the wheels, just the rain. Daniel took out his earbuds, put them in, didn't turn anything on, just sat with them in, because earbuds make it easier not to have a conversation. An old trick from college. But the earbuds didn't help. The train hummed on a curve, low, sustained. Outside, the darkness shifted angle and became slightly different. Then the curve ended and everything was straight again, the wheels steady. Daniel thought about riding the train as a child, with his father, somewhere south, heading to the coast. His father had been young then, laughed easily. They played cards all night, a simple game, and his father let him win while pretending he didn't know he was doing it. Daniel had known, but he'd pretended too. He put the memory away and looked out the window. Chapter 2. The Book. What are you reading? She didn't answer right away. First, she looked at him. That quick assessment you do with strangers on trains. Safe or not, talkative or quiet. Will they leave you alone or not? He apparently passed. Then she looked at the book. Chekhov. A pause. 3rd time this year. Do you like it? No. She said it calmly, the way you say something obvious. But I always reread him when things are bad. I don't know why. Daniel thought about that. Maybe because in his stories, everyone's having a hard time. Makes you feel less alone. She looked at him differently, just a moment longer. I'm Natasha, she said. Daniel. They didn't shake hands, they were too far apart, and the moment wasn't quite that kind. Just names, and it turned out that was enough. Are you going far? She asked. End of the line. You? Probably the same. That word, probably. Daniel noticed it. In the last few months, he'd said it constantly too. I'll probably go. I'll probably stay. Things will probably be fine. Probably as a way of not committing, of leaving yourself an exit. Not, I'm going to Portland, or I'm going to Denver. Just, probably. Which meant the destination didn't really matter. What mattered was leaving. He knew that feeling. When you're in motion, it doesn't matter where. What matters is that you're not where you were. When lights flash past the window and you don't owe anyone an explanation of why you're going or what for. When the distance between you and where you came from grows with every minute. It doesn't fix anything, but for a while, it lets you breathe. Your bookmark is interesting, he said. She didn't seem embarrassed, just looked down at the book, at the small corner of a photograph sticking out between the pages. My daughter, she said. She's 5 here. I take it everywhere. Is she alive? Natasha said it quickly, the way you do when you're used to people assuming the wrong thing. She just lives with her father, has for 3 years. I see. You don't, she said, not unkindly, just correcting. But that's fine. It's hard to understand. Outside, a light flashed, a lone lamp at some crossing, and then darkness again. The rain had gotten heavier. Now the drops tapped against the glass loud enough to hear even over the wheels. Daniel reached into his backpack and took out a thermos. Tea? She looked at the thermos, then at him. Something in the question, its simplicity, the absence of any preamble, seemed to settle something. Yes, she said. The book was old, he could see that better now. Cover worn smooth, the spine slightly split, the pages with that faint yellow that comes from years of handling. Books like that belong to people who read because they need to, because the book does something to them. He thought, Chekhov, which means something about the unsaid, about people who live alongside each other and can't quite reach, about loneliness that doesn't go away even when someone is there, or something else. He hadn't read it in a long time. Between them, on the small folding table, 2 cups, his, hers. The tea had cooled long before they finished it. They just sat there, like witnesses to the conversation. Natasha looked at the cups, then said, "It's strange how sometimes it's easier with a stranger than with the people you know. I used to think about this. I read somewhere that it has a name. The train stranger. The person you'll never see again. So you can." "So you can," Daniel repeated. Chapter 3. Tea and the first real words. The tea was strong. He always made it strong. A habit from years ago. The kind where the spoon practically stands on its own. Natasha took the cup in both hands. The way you hold something when you want warmth, and not just a drink. She sipped slowly, holding it with both hands, and that gesture, warmth coming through glass, was so familiar to watch that Daniel felt something close to relief. Just 2 people drinking tea on a night train. Everything else? Later. She looked out the window. The train moved steadily, the darkness outside dense, broken only sometimes by the lights of a town or a signal at a crossing or an oncoming train that roared past and vanished. "Where are you really going?" she asked. "To see my father." Daniel paused. "He's sick. I haven't seen him in 2 years." "Why not?" "We had a falling out." Another pause. "Over nothing, the way these things go. Over my choices. Wrong job, wrong woman, wrong life. His opinion." "And yours?" "Mine too, but differently." Natasha smiled slightly, not with amusement, in recognition. "Why now?" she asked. Daniel thought about it. He could say fear. He could say guilt, but both words felt slightly off. "Because he called," he said slowly, picking his way through it, which meant he made the first move, that it mattered more to him to make it right than to be right. A pause. I felt ashamed I'd waited so long. "He called, first time in 2 years, said, 'Come.' Didn't explain why, just, 'Come.' And you came. And I came." The wheels turned, the rain fell. The compartment was warm. It had held the heat of the day and hadn't let it go yet. It smelled of seat cushions and something sweet from a meal eaten earlier by someone else. And underneath that, the particular smell of train cars that never quite changes. That particular blend of dust and warmth and distance. "And you?" Daniel asked. Natasha looked into her cup for a long time. "I'm going because I don't know where else to go," she said, simply, without drama, the way you described the weather. "I quit my job 3 weeks ago. I'm leaving the apartment. Everything there is his. I'm not going back. A friend invited me to come stay with her. She lives far. I came." "How long have you known her?" 20 years, since school." A pause. "She's the only person who doesn't say, 'I told you so.' That's worth a lot." It's everything, she said. They were quiet, a good quiet. Not the kind you feel obligated to fill, but the kind that means something on its own. The train was carrying them both through the night and the rain, and in that movement there is something settling. That you're already going, that you're no longer where you were, that the distance between you and that place is growing by the minute. "Tell me about your daughter," Daniel said. Natasha looked at him, surprised but not suspicious. "Why?" "I just want to listen, if you want to talk." She was quiet for a moment, then she began. The tea warmed from the inside, slowly, gradually, the way real things warm you. Not all at once, not brightly, just a little warmer. Outside, a crossing flashed past, red lights blinking, the gate down, a car waiting. Then it was all gone. The train moved through, and again darkness, again rain, again just the wheels. Daniel thought about the fact that he'd been on the train for 3 hours now, and that for the first time in those 3 hours, he felt calm. Not good, not bad, just calm. He poured what was left of the tea, just a little, enough for 2 sips each, divided it evenly. She took her cup. They drank in silence. Outside, something glinted, a small lake or pond that caught the sky for a moment. A second, then gone. Daniel wasn't sure he'd really seen it. Maybe he'd imagined it. Chapter 4. Night. Her name was Clara. Natasha talked about her the way mothers talk about children they haven't seen in a while, with that particular mix of precision and tenderness that comes from knowing someone very well, but seeing them rarely. Every detail seemed to stand on its own. Clara likes being read to, but only slowly. Clara is afraid of the vacuum cleaner, but tries to hide it. Clara once told her mother, "You get sad when you think I'm not looking, but I'm always looking." 8 years old, serious, loves horses, and can't stand oatmeal. She taught herself to read at 4, figured it out from labels in grocery stores. She rarely laughs, but when she does, the whole room goes with her. Natasha talked, carefully at first, then more freely, the way people do when they haven't been able to talk about what matters, and suddenly they can. Daniel listened, really listened, not waiting for a pause to say his own thing. Just listened. "Do you see her often?" he asked. "Every other weekend." Natasha's voice was steady, but you could feel the effort behind that steadiness, the kind you hold for a long time and get used to holding. "By the court agreement, sometimes more if my ex allows it." "Your ex?" "My ex-husband. He's a decent person, a good father." A pause. "That makes it harder, actually. It would be simpler if he were terrible." Daniel understood what she meant. When there's a clear villain, things are easier. When there's no one to blame, or when you're both to blame, that's the hardest. "I'm not a bad mother," Natasha said suddenly, in the middle of something else she'd been saying. She said it to the air, not to him, like she was talking to someone invisible who had been sitting inside her for a long time, always doubting. "I want you to know that. I didn't think you were." Everyone thinks so. When a child lives with the father, everyone assumes the mother did something wrong. "Who's everyone?" She was quiet. "Me, mostly," she said. Daniel said nothing. He just poured her the last bit of tea. Outside, the night had grown denser. They were several hours from the city now, and the darkness beyond the window was real country dark, without the orange glow that never quite leaves cities. Just rain, just the lights of oncoming trains occasionally. "Tell me about your father," Natasha said, and Daniel did. About how close they'd been when he was small, about his father teaching him to fix a bicycle, patiently, unhurriedly, explaining every step, about how something drifted apart later, gradually, almost invisibly, the way riverbanks separate when something blocks the flow upstream, about the work his father thought was beneath him, about the woman his father never accepted, simply because she wasn't from their town, about the last conversation 2 years ago, on the phone, both of them saying too much. "I hung up," Daniel said, "and then I spent 2 years waiting for him to call first. And he called. He called. What do you feel?" "I don't know yet." He looked at his cup. "Probably fear. That I'll get there and it'll be too late. Or that it won't be too late, but we still won't be able to talk. To talk. Just talk. Like people." Natasha looked at him for a long moment. "You know what I figured out," she said slowly, "in these 3 years while Clara has been with her father? That I spend an enormous amount of time explaining to myself how it happened, and almost no time just calling her, hearing her voice, asking about the cat." Daniel was quiet. "The explaining takes up all the space," Natasha continued, "and there's no room left for what actually matters." Outside, something flashed. A small station, a few lamps, an empty platform, and was gone. The train didn't stop. It kept going into the dark. For a long stretch, there were no lights at all, just rain and darkness. Uniform, monotonous, almost lulling. Occasionally, an oncoming train roared through. Noise, a strip of lit windows, then darkness again. Another world, glimpsed for a second and gone. Daniel thought about the fact that they'd been on the train for hours, and he didn't know her last name, didn't know what city she'd come from, knew almost nothing except what she'd told him, and yet he knew something important, that she was telling him the truth, that she was in pain, that she was headed somewhere good. Sometimes that's enough. It was deep in the night now. In the other compartments, people had long since gone to sleep. In theirs, only the nightlight burned, dim orange, and the wheels turned and the rain fell. Natasha went quiet for a moment. Then, "You know what my mother says? That everything happened because I'm too independent. That I should have given in more, agreed more, kept the family together." A pause. "Maybe she's right. I don't know." "What do you think?" "I think that my ex-husband and I were just different people who spent a long time pretending to be the same." She looked at her cup. "We got tired of pretending. It's not his fault or mine. It's just what happened." "That's honest," Daniel said. "Honest, but it doesn't make it easier." Later, when Natasha had gone quiet again, Daniel thought about what she'd said about the explaining, that it takes up all the space. He'd done the same. 2 years explaining the argument with his father to himself. Who was right? Who was wrong? Who should have made the first move? Replaying the words that had been said, finding new arguments, as though he could win a fight with the past if he just found the right words. You can't win a fight with the past. You can only make a phone call. Chapter 5. The middle of the night. There's a time on trains, around 2 or 3 in the morning, when the world outside seems to have stopped existing. The window shows absolute darkness, not a light, not a shape. The car sways steadily, evenly, and you feel as though you've fallen out of time. No yesterday, no tomorrow. Just this compartment, this light, this conversation. At that hour, people tell the truth, because the defenses get tired of holding on. It was at that hour that Natasha said, quietly, looking at her cup, "I didn't cry at the hearing." Daniel didn't ask her to clarify. He just waited. When the judge awarded custody to my ex, everyone expected me to cry. My lawyer warned me it would help. Judges respond to that. But I couldn't. I sat there thinking about the fact that Clara would be fine with him. Objectively fine. His apartment is bigger. His mother lives nearby. The school district is better. And I couldn't cry. And after I cried for 3 days without getting up, she said it evenly. But that doesn't count. Daniel said nothing. People decided I was cold, Natasha continued. The people in the room, my lawyer, my ex. He said afterward that it was very telling. A pause. My mother thinks so too. She doesn't say it, but she thinks it. What do you think? I think I was scared. She said this like it was the first time she'd said it out loud. You could feel that, the way a word feels when it's been stuck somewhere for a long time and finally comes free. Not of the hearing, of fighting. I was scared that if I cried and demanded and pushed, it would become about me instead of about Clara, and I didn't know how to make it about her. She paused. People decided I was cold, that I didn't care. Another pause. I believe that myself sometimes, at night. That's not true, Daniel said. How do you know? Because people who don't care don't carry photographs in their books. He kept his voice low, and they don't reread Chekhov when things are hard. And they don't tell all of this to a stranger on a train at 2 in the morning. Natasha looked at him, the way you look at someone when you're deciding whether to believe them. Then she seemed to decide. Daniel thought about the fact that over the whole night, they hadn't asked each other any of the usual things. Not what do you do, not where are you from, not have you ever been to. The conversation had gone straight to where it hurt, because the night and the dark and the sound of the wheels had taken it there themselves. Maybe that's how it should be. Maybe in daylight, among people, we talk about what's safe. And at night, with a stranger we'll never see again, we can finally say, What's true?
This isn't proof, she said. Natasha, you're going to a friend who's the only person who doesn't say, "I told you so." You're going because you're hurting and you need someone who will simply be there. That's not coldness. That's a person who understands what she needs. That takes something. She was quiet for a long time. Outside, the rain fell. The wheels turned. "You need to call your father," she said at last, "before you get there." "Why?" "Because the explaining takes up all the space," she said, echoing herself. "If you arrive with 2 years of explanations in your head, there'll be no room for him. Call. Just say you're on your way, that you're glad he called." Daniel looked at her. "And you call Clara in the morning," he said, without explaining anything, not telling her how you're doing, just, "How's the cat? What's going on at school? What's interesting?" She'll ask why I'm calling. Tell her you wanted to hear her voice. That's true. Then tell her the truth. Natasha looked at him, the way you look when something important has landed and you need a moment with it. She looked down, then nodded. "Sometimes you need to get off at the right stop," Daniel said slowly, like he was understanding it right now, in this moment. "Even if your ticket goes all the way to the end." Natasha raised her eyes. "What does that mean?" "Not exactly sure, but something like, sometimes the right place is where you are, not where you thought you were going." They were quiet for a long time. The train moved them through the night. At some point, Natasha closed her eyes. Not sleeping, just closed them. Daniel looked out the window, at the dark, at the occasional distant light, at the rain that kept falling. He took out his phone, found his father's number, typed 3 words. "Dad, I'm coming." Sent it, put the phone away. Outside, darkness. The wheels turned, the rain fell. A small station slid past. No stop, just past. A few lamps, a dark station building, a bench on the platform where no one was sitting. Stations like this appear in the middle of the night, present, but empty. Like there's life in them, but it's sleeping right now. Daniel watched the station until it disappeared around a curve. He thought, someone always gets off here. Someone waits for this train, stands on this platform. For someone, this station is a beginning or an end. Not for him. He's going further. You always pass other people's stations. In the compartment, a particular silence settled. The kind that comes between people after something important has been said, and both of them need to sit with it. Not awkward silence, living silence, like a rest in music. Daniel looked out the window. Natasha looked out the window. The train moved. Chapter 6. Before Dawn. Somewhere around 3 in the morning, the conversation grew quieter. Because everything important had been said. Now, they could just be there. Daniel thought about how in the morning, soon and now, he would arrive at his father's, walk into an apartment he hadn't seen in 2 years. The smell would be familiar from childhood.
Old books, medicine, something cooking. His father would open the door, older probably. 2 years is enough time for that. He wasn't afraid of it anymore. Natasha had fallen asleep, gradually, quietly, the way you fall asleep when you've been holding on for a long time and finally let go. The book had slipped from her lap, her head tilted slightly toward the wall. She was breathing evenly. Daniel didn't move so as not to wake her. The book had fallen. He picked it up from the floor, set it beside her. The photograph of Clara had shifted into view a little more. A small face, 5 years old, looking slightly to the side of the camera, serious. He looked at the photograph. Natasha had mentioned that Clara rarely looks straight at the camera, always slightly to the side, as though she sees something interesting somewhere others aren't looking. A good quality, Daniel thought, looking where others don't. He thought about his father, about the last phone call 2 years ago, about the voice, not angry, just tired. Back then, Daniel had only heard the words, had answered the words, but the voice had been something else. Quiet, rough, older than he remembered. His phone buzzed, a message from his father. Waiting. One word. Daniel looked at that word for a long time, then put the phone away and looked out the window. The darkness outside had begun to change, not light yet, but no longer absolute. A grey strip had appeared at the horizon, barely there. That hour was beginning when the night hasn't quite gone, but has started to pull back, and everything outside looks like an etching. Dark, high contrast, no middle tones. The rain had gotten quieter. Natasha woke on her own, opened her eyes, spent a few seconds not knowing where she was, then remembered. Picked up the book, looked at the photograph. She took out her phone, looked at it, put it back. Too early to call. But the gesture, taking it out, Daniel noticed. The gesture of someone who's already made the decision. "She'll be glad you called," he said. "She's always glad." Natasha said this quietly, like something she's known for a long time and sometimes forgets. I talk myself into thinking I'll be interrupting her, that the timing is wrong, that she's busy, but she's always glad. Then call more often. I will, she said, simply and directly, no qualifications. What time is it? Almost 5. How much longer? About 2 hours. She nodded, straightened up, tucked the loose strands of hair back. Did you write to your father? I wrote. He wrote back, waiting. Natasha nodded slowly. Good. Will you call Clara? When I get to my friend's place, I don't want to wake her at 5 in the morning. A small pause. But I'll call. I definitely will. Outside the window, fields were becoming visible, grey in morning fog, with scattered trees. The rain had nearly stopped. The sky to the east was growing lighter, not pink yet, just less dark. You know what's strange? Natasha said. I told you things I haven't told anyone, not even Sophie, about the hearing, about not crying. I tell her everything's fine. Why? Because she worries. Natasha looked out the window. But I can tell you, because you don't worry about me. You just listen. Is that good or bad? Good,
She paused. Sometimes you need someone who just listens, without the worry and without the advice. Daniel thought about his father, who had always offered advice, always worried, and precisely because of that had been hard to talk to. The worry took up all the space. I'm going to tell my father I'm glad to hear his voice, Daniel said. Just that, without explanations.
Yes, said Natasha. Exactly that. The train slowed, just slightly, almost imperceptibly. Ahead, in the fog, lights were beginning to show. Natasha picked up the book. Didn't open it, just held it. Her fingers moved along the spine, the way fingers do with familiar objects when your mind is somewhere else. Clara asked me something once, she said suddenly. Whether you can miss someone who's right there. She asked it about my mother. My mother visits them a lot. She said, I miss Grandma even when she's here, because when she's here, there's always somewhere to be, always something happening. And when she leaves, I want her to come back. Natasha stopped. She's a smart girl, Daniel said. Yes. The pause. I miss Clara when we're together too, because every time I think, almost time to leave, time is almost up, it's almost gone. Outside, the sky to the east was lightening slowly, first barely at all, then more noticeably. The grey was leaving, a pale pinkish tone appearing at the horizon. Not dawn yet, just the feeling of dawn about to come. The quietest hour. The birds outside were still silent. Chapter 7. The station. The station appeared out of the fog gradually. First the signal lights, red and green. Then the station building. Then the platform with a few figures on it. Early morning, 5 or 6 people waiting, collars up, watching the approaching train. Daniel looked out the window and thought that one of those shapes could be Sophie, the friend who had simply said, "Come," and was waiting. The train was slowing, the wheels changing their rhythm, and that changing rhythm said, "The night is ending." This was her stop. Natasha stood, picked up her bag, just the one bag, which meant she'd left in a hurry, hadn't planned to be away long. Put on her jacket. "This is your stop?" Daniel asked. "Yes." He stood too. They faced each other in the compartment, the small one with its worn cushions and 2 empty teacups, and outside the window, the platform was slowly moving past. "Thank you for the tea," she said. "Thank you for Chekhov." She almost smiled. "You know," Natasha said, "I thought I was going nowhere, that I was just running." She was looking at the platform. "But it turns out I'm going to Sophie, to someone who's waiting. That's completely different. That's completely different." The train stopped. Natasha picked up her bag, then picked up the book, took out the photograph of Clara, looked at it for a second, and put it not in the book, but in her pocket. Closer. "Call your father," she said from the doorway. "By voice, not a message." "I will. Today. Today." She went into the corridor. He heard her footsteps, then the thud of the vestibule door.
Daniel sat down. Through the window he saw her, walking quickly along the platform, bag on her shoulder, not looking back.
The fog was low, and in that fog she was sharp and distinct, the way people look when they know where they're going. At the platform exit, she turned around. He raised his hand. She raised hers too, quickly, barely visible. Then the fog. The train began to move. The platform drifted backward. The lamps, the station building, the few figures of those meeting someone, all of it disappeared around the curve. Then fields again, then fog, then the morning light that was getting brighter by the minute. Daniel sat alone in the compartment. On the table, 2 cups, his and hers, both empty. The Chekhov book lay where Natasha had left it. He picked it up, opened it to a random page, read a paragraph. Chekhov wrote about 2 people sitting beside each other, each thinking their own thoughts, and it was good between them. Daniel closed the book, left it on the table, let it stay. He picked up his phone, found his father's number, didn't type, pressed call. It rang for a long time. Then, Daniel? His father's voice, quiet, rough, clearly awake already. Dad, I'll be there in 3 hours. A long silence, long enough that Daniel thought the call had dropped. Good son, his father said. His voice was rough and quiet. Outside the window, fields drifted past in the morning fog. Grey, still, the grass wet from the night's rain. The sky to the east was pink now, almost orange, and that light lay across everything outside, evenly and quietly. Daniel held the phone and listened to his father's breathing. Steady, slightly laboured. They weren't talking, just holding the line. 2 minutes, maybe 3. He didn't count. Then his father said, I'll make oatmeal. His voice wavered slightly on the last word. Just barely. Just a little. But Daniel heard it. Make it, Dad. His father hung up. Daniel put the phone away, closed his eyes for a second. They hadn't said anything, just both held the line. And that silence had been full, like the quiet in the compartment at night, like the sound of the wheels, like the rain that had finally stopped. 30 minutes to the end of the line. Daniel watched as the first signs of a large city began appearing outside. More lights, buildings closer together, a wider road running alongside the tracks. The train didn't slow, but something in its movement had changed, as though it too knew the destination was near. He thought about what had happened over the course of the night. Not outside. Nothing had happened outside. 2 people on a train, drinking tea, talking. That was all. But inside, something had shifted. Something that had been standing still for a very long time. He would call his father again when he got to the station. Just say, I'm here. I'm getting off. No explanations needed. No words to build toward that conversation that hadn't worked for 2 years. Just be there. Natasha was at Sophie's by now, probably, drinking tea in someone else's kitchen. talking. Or quiet, that would be fine too. And tomorrow she would call Clara. He believed this, completely, without doubt. The train slowed. The end of the line was beginning. Daniel stood at the window. Morning fog lay low over the fields. White, thick, the kind that only comes in early fall when the nights are cold and the ground hasn't cooled all the way yet. Trees stuck up out of it, just the tops, like islands. Everything else was white and still and without borders. Beautiful, he thought. Just beautiful. He hadn't thought about something being beautiful in a long time. Not because there hadn't been beautiful things. He just hadn't been looking. The train was slowing down. You could feel it physically. Something large and unstoppable finally deciding to stop. The wheels changing their rhythm. The car swaying differently. Almost there. And that's the story. Compartment 6. If it stayed with you, leave a like. It matters to me to know you're there. And if you haven't subscribed yet, there are more nights like this one ahead. Until next time.